Again, I want to thank you all. The reason why I think most of us are here today, and I want to learn some stuff today, is on coyotes. And we have a representative from Willowbrook Wildlife, and that is Jack. Jack's last name is?
McRae.
What was it?
McRae.
McRae, okay. Oh, okay. And Jack will talk to us about coyotes, and we also asked him to talk about some other urban wildlife besides coyotes. So if you have any questions, this is the gentleman to ask, because the police department will get calls every once in a while. What do I do with coyotes? Can I trap them? Can I kill them? Can I shoot them? Can I poison them? All sorts of things, and usually the answer to all those are no for the usual resident, and so Jack can go over that. The biggest concern is that when I'm out walking my dog at night, okay, and a coyote comes up, what can I do to protect myself and protect my pet? And that's some things we'd like to look at. And then we also get the same questions as to, you know, well, I have a skunk, I have a raccoon, I have all sorts of things. Also in the back of our room is Roseanne Terry. Roseanne is our community service officer, and we can have her come up and answer any questions on domestic animals. And the reason I say that is Roseanne is also an investigator for the Anti-Cruelty Society. And she does that as a part-time job, and she's our expert on domestic animals handling. If you want, we have a little bit of time. She can talk about leaving animals in cars and stuff like that. So we have Roseanne here. So we have a series of experts for you here today. So hopefully you'll learn a lot, and I know I intend to, and then also have some good questions for them as everybody as well too. So with that, I will turn the microphone over to Jack, and thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Which coffee is yours, Tom?
This one was mine.
Okay.
Thank you. Coffee with the mayor. You got to have coffee.
I don't think it might be working.
Is this working?
It's just recording. It's not for him.
Oh, okay. Oh, very good. Thanks for inviting me. I've been doing this talk on coyotes for close to 25 years now, and the last few years my talk is completely different than what it was 25 years ago. We're going to talk a lot about that. I work at the Willowbrook Wildlife Center, part of the Forest Preserve District of DuPage County. We are a wild animal hospital. You may not know how significant we are. We are the largest wild animal hospital in the United States. Last year we took in almost 9,000 animals for treatment. There's no place like us in the country. We had 187 different animals brought in last year for treatment. There's nothing like us anywhere. We're the oldest wild animal hospital in the United States. We've been in one location since 1956. You guys should be real proud of what you have in your community. We do over 400 programs a year. This is one of them. I've been doing programs on coyotes for over 20 years now. 2 years ago, I did 13 in a 4-month period. It was a sensational hot topic. Now I do maybe 1 or 2 a year. So I don't know if the sensationalism has died off, but I always like this program. The toughest part, though, is facing people who have lost pets. 20 years ago, I didn't have to talk about that. Now I do. And it's real rough. Pets are members of the family. There's nothing worse than hearing about a pet being lost to a coyote. I don't want to come across as being anti-coyote. I don't want to come across as being pro-coyote. I want to lay out scientific facts about coyotes. But one thing about them is things that we thought were true 20 years ago aren't true anymore. Things I used to say 10 years ago aren't true anymore. I'm not going to say them anymore. So it's a unique challenge, coyotes, like no other animal. I want this to be as educational as possible. If you have questions, don't wait till the very end. If I don't see your hand in the air, just call out a question. I'll do my best to answer them. There might be a few real surprising facts in here. Usually people don't realize how small coyotes are, but it's deceptive. 20 inches high at the shoulder, 24 pounds in DuPage County. Willowbrook Wildlife Center has been taking in coyotes for over 30 years. We've never had a 35-pound coyote brought in. Body length, just over 4 feet. That's the size of my lab. Exact size of my lab. Except my lab weighs almost 65 pounds and he's not fat. So a coyote the height and length of a Labrador Retriever, but half the weight. This is a Coyote collar set as large as it will go. I couldn't get this halfway around my dog's neck. Coyotes are not big, heavy, robust animals. They're lithe, medium-sized dogs, but they are slim. They're like long-distance runners. They're terrific athletes, but they're not big dogs. They're medium-sized dogs. They used to be common throughout Illinois, most of the United States. They live in large areas, 20 to 30 miles in diameter. And then we found out they can live in 15 acres. They den in hollow trees, logs, brush piles, abandoned buildings, under porches, under tool sheds, in culverts. Packs are uncommon in Illinois. Even the word pack is probably a misnomer. Wolves live in packs. Wolves are a very social structure. They live with aunts and uncles, grandparents, cousins, relatives. A coyote is a family. It's mom and dad and the kids. Eventually, the young males are going to disperse. The girls may stick around for a year or two. You may have an aunt that stays around with her sister and her husband for a while. Coyotes do mate for life, unless something happens to one of the pair. Yes?
So packs are uncommon in Illinois, but
Yes.
that implies that they're common in other parts of the country.
It's a misnomer. Coyotes aren't that social pack animal that a wolf is. It's always just mom and dad and the kids. Occasionally an older one will stay around, but it's not that highly structured formation that a wolf pack has.
Yeah, I've never seen more than 2 or 3 here.
Yeah, and that's usually a parent and the kids. They're great swimmers, semi-open country. They'll use riverways and trails. I like to say if you live within a mile of a forest preserve or a creek or a railroad or a golf course or light industry or a mature neighborhood with oak trees, which is everywhere, you're living in coyote habitat. There are coyotes in every single county of the Chicago region. There's coyote dens at the Field Museum Shed Aquarium Complex. There's a coyote den in the grounds of the Art Institute. There's coyotes that live in the Loop that have never lived anywhere but the Loop, let alone Lincoln Park, Washington Park, Douglas Park, Columbus Park, Jackson Park. There's coyotes everywhere. And they're the fastest dog in North America, 43 miles an hour. That's fast for a dog. They hit sexual maturity. They don't reproduce at 1 year. They do start reproducing at 2 years. They've got about a 2-month gestation period, average of 4 to 6 young. Only 5 to 20 coyote pups survive the first year. That's not unusual for wild animals. I'm sure it's a similar statistic for raccoons, possums, skunks, almost anything that's wild animals have a real hard time making it to year 1. Rodents have even a harder time making it to year 1. The young are just like little puppies at birth. They stay in the den for 3 weeks. Eventually their eyes open, eventually their ears turn up, eventually they start wandering away from the den, but they still come back till they're about 3 or 4 months old, and then they start to, the bold young might disperse. At the end of the summer, usually that dispersal takes place September, October. And then the young males are going off and trying to find a mate and establishing their own territory. Yes?
I have a question. I have a lot of them by me.
Sure.
Howling at night.
Sure.
My dog has been attacked twice. And when it was the last time he was eating my dog, my dog's head was in his mouth. And I ran up to the coyote and he wouldn't let go. It was only when I grabbed the stick to hit him, he finally let go. But during the day, they're walking right in my backyard. It seems like they're not afraid.
They're not afraid anymore.
How big are your dogs? 10 pounds, 12 pounds.
Those are little dogs.
Yeah, they've been attacked twice.
Yeah. Little dogs are a target for coyotes. Cats are a target for coyotes. Absolutely. Yes?
Do they coexist with the fox? Or
They
do
do.
they drive them out?
They do. There was thought at one time that coyotes, when they moved in the area, the red fox might decrease. At Willowbrook Wildlife Center, we have trail cams set up, and we see both on a regular basis. We're not an isolated island of forest preserve like some are. We've got College of DuPage, Morton Arboretum, Hidden Lake Forest Preserve, and big yards. It's perfect coyote habitat. The forest preserve is perfect fox habitat, and they both show up at the same time.
Do they tend to compete for the same food source?
A bit, but you know, it might be an uneasy relationship. Certainly when wolves expanded into Wisconsin, the coyotes disappeared. When the coyotes expanded, I'm sure the fox population was affected a bit, but we've got more fox out there now than ever before, and we have more coyotes out there now than ever before.
Yeah, I got foxes underneath my shed.
Sure, they love sheds. As do woodchucks, as do skunks, as do possums and raccoons. You know, people tend to think that suburbia is not a good place for wildlife. It's a great place for wildlife. It's better than old rural areas. There's so much shelter, there's so much food, and then they've learned that we're not that scary. Farmers used to shoot animals whenever they could. We don't. They've adjusted to that.
I was just going to comment, I grew up in a rural area. I looked for these animals. Most of my life growing up as a kid, I could never find a fox.
Exactly.
Coyote, until I moved to the suburban area.
Exactly right. Suburbia offers more for these animals than anything. And they're bigger and they're healthier. The raccoons in the suburbs, massive animals. Go up to the north woods of Wisconsin and they're scrawny little things that eat crayfish and frogs. Down here they're going into dumpsters of Chinese restaurants, Greek restaurants, German restaurants. They're eating so well here. They live in cemeteries. It's a quiet, safe place to live. We've got more wildlife now around here than ever before. Or not ever before, perhaps. Well, yeah, ever before. There's more raccoons now than there were in pre-settlement times.
So when I hear this screaming at night, like are they killing an animal?
Bunny rabbits scream like crazy when they're being attacked. It's a terrifying scream, but usually most animals, most rodents scream when they're being attacked.
It's really a loud noise when they're screaming.
Oh, it's awful, yeah. The one interesting thing about coyotes, now this is already a fairly old statistic, but it still holds true for the most part. The coyotes that live around here are eating what they're supposed to be eating. They're eating small rodents, they're eating rabbits. They do eat fawn for a small period of time in May when they can catch a fawn. If a fawn is a week old, they can outrun a coyote though. But before a fawn is a week old, a coyote can catch a fawn. And coyotes scavenge road-killed deer quite a bit. So when you're looking at their droppings, it's real easy to see what they eat. It's really easy to see that they eat mulberries at this time of year. They're going to eat crab apples in August. They're eating small rodents all summer long. They're eating the fawns in May. The one nice thing is they're not eating a lot of garbage and pets here. Southern California, almost 40% of the coyote's diet is garbage and pets. They don't have the cat leash laws that we do. Cats outside, left alone, they're a target for coyotes. Here it shows it. House cats, 0 to 7% around here. Plants, 8 to 45%. It's real seasonal. Again, when the berries are fruiting and dropping off the trees, they're going to eat a lot more of that. But they eat voles. Voles are little rodents. They reproduce like crazy. They're food for a lot of animals out there, referred to as popcorn for the animal world.
If you see a coyote digging, is that what they're usually getting, is a vole?
They're usually going for a vole, yeah. Some little rodent, maybe a chipmunk trying to get into the burrow. They'll certainly go for chipmunks, but chipmunks are much quicker little rodents. Squirrels climb trees and can get away. Voles just aren't as quick. Most people smile at this. We would have even more Canada geese if we didn't have all the coyotes around. Now, how many coyotes do we have? The experts say between 2,000 and 3,000 per county. But of course, they don't stay within a county. But if there's 2,000 to 3,000 in Cook County, 2,000 to 3,000 in Will, DuPage, Lake, McHenry, Kane, we're talking about a lot of coyotes in the area. They take a lot of fawns in the spring for that brief period of time when they can catch them. The yearly routine, January being at the top, they mate around here, January through March. It usually coincides with the second week of February. It usually coincides exactly with Valentine's Day. They go into heat 2 or 3 days before and 2 or 3 days after Valentine's Day. That's when they reproduce. If there are coyotes reproducing with pets, it has to be in that period of time. That's when coyotes go into heat, no other time of the year. Yes?
I noticed that, like in January, late winter, a lot of howling.
Yeah.
Of coyote. Is that because of the mating?
They're establishing a territory,
Okay.
which is tied into mating. Mating, they're trying to attract, if their mate has disappeared, they need to attract another mate.
Okay.
But they're also, the sound is also establishing their territory versus another coyote pair, their territory.
Is that more typical that time of the year, though?
Yes,
You're not gonna hear
yes,
the rest of the year?
absolutely. December, January, they're more conspicuous. We've got a slide that shows that, absolutely, yeah. In March through May is when they sort of disappear. Now they're in the denning mode. They don't want to be seen. They're just not being seen as often. The pups are born usually late April, early May. They live as a family till September. Then the young start to disperse. Very few animals, wild animals, can communicate as effectively as coyotes. When they want to be conspicuous, they howl loudly. They are trying for their voice to reach coyotes far away. They yip, they bark, they can make little sounds just so that their young can hear that no one else hears. Not just sound communication. If you're walking ever in a forest preserve on our nice crushed limestone trails, you see coyote droppings often. They're in the middle of the trail, often in the middle of intersections. People walking dogs have courtesy, and their dogs go to the bathroom just off the trail. They're on a leash. Coyotes put their feces right in a conspicuous location so other coyotes know they live there. Anybody who has a dog knows the facial expressions of a dog. They can show happiness, they can show sadness, they can show fear, they can show guilt. Coyotes are even more so. Coyotes are extremely expressive animals. Pup Survival, it just shows that very few make it through the first year. Hit by cars is one of the big ones. Other coyotes is another one. There are dogs, large dogs. It'll take out a small coyote if it can.
What is their facial expression in terms of aggression? Do you see one?
Baring their teeth. You know, pulling their lips back and baring their teeth, growling. I'm guessing the ears might be involved too, raising the hackles, raising that fur on their back. This shows how most of the animals are killed. This is interesting, at least to me, this is interesting. Coyotes have been around the Chicago region for almost forever. They were here in the 19th century, in the 1800s. They were called prairie wolves at that time. The term coyote didn't come about really until the 1930s or 40s. I blame Warner Brothers cartoons for that. Before that, there were prairie wolves and there were timber wolves. The timber wolves are the big gray wolves, 100-pound animals of the North Woods. Prairie wolves are the 25 to 35-pound coyotes of the open areas. No one reported coyotes, though, in the 40s and the 50s, except every once in a while somebody out in the middle of nowhere, Illinois. But in the 60s and 70s, people in the Chicago area started reporting coyotes. I saw my first coyote in 1983 down in Lockport, and I've probably seen them every year since. What's interesting about 1983 is that that's when researchers decided that coyotes had reached every bit of coyote landscape in the Chicago area. Chicago, they had reached their carrying capacity. The population would then level off in the early 80s. It's not true. The coyotes adapted. They learned to do more with less space. They had larger young in smaller territory. That goes against any wild animal behavior. It's all based on how much food there is, and they found there's a lot of food around here. After the carrying capacity was reached in the 1980s, the population still climbed. The coyotes of the Chicago area are the most studied coyotes in the world. 16 or 17 years now of solid research done by Ohio State University. There's hundreds of coyotes with collars on them, tracking collars, so we know where they go, we know what they do. And all it shows is we know very little about coyotes, because what we thought we knew is no longer true. It's science, though. You'll never know everything in science. Once you know something, there's all this more information that you need to learn. And coyotes are showing us there's a lot to learn about them. This map is wrong because it shows a little bit of white area in the northeast, New England area. There are coyotes there. So this map should be all red to me. Heavily hunted, the coyote is one of the few mammals that managed to expand its range like no other animal. Any other predator in North America, when humans wanted to hammer the population, those animals disappeared. When coyotes are hammered, they respond by having more young. There's more coyotes after attempts to remove coyotes than before. Considered to be one of the most intelligent mammals. I don't talk about animals being intelligent or not. You can look at the size of their brain. Brain usually involves that brain cavity. If they have a big brain, they can do a lot of things. They are easier to adapt. Able to utilize nearly all types of suburban habitat? Absolutely. Again, golf courses, junior colleges, railroad tracks, creeks, everywhere. This is just a beautiful picture of the coyote that made it into the Quiznos on Wabash in 2007. Walked through the front door on Wabash Avenue underneath the L tracks. Climbed into the Sobe lean drink cooler, posed for some pictures, and then they came and caught him with a catch pole and took him away and let him go into Cook County Forest Preserve. Here's one that made it onto a bus. Walked through the open door, climbed up and sat on the bus. Here's just some different pictures, one in an elevator of a north side apartment building, in a culvert, drinking out of bird baths, in people's backyards. This corresponds with the number of coyotes. As the coyote population increased, the number of calls that came into the Willowbrook Wildlife Center increased. Now, nuisance coyotes, the word nuisance, some people having the animal in their backyard is a nuisance. And so this does include people calling saying, I saw a coyote in my backyard, and it was recorded as a nuisance because they said it was a nuisance. We get calls from people saying, what can they do to attract wild animals to their backyard? And we say, don't do anything, and don't try to attract them because they're there anyway. All the animals I've mentioned, the raccoons, the possums, the skunks, woodchucks, coyotes, squirrels, they're all in our backyards. You don't have to do anything to attract them. In the case of coyotes, you should do everything you can to not attract them. This is a seasonal number of calls that we get at Willowbrook. It corresponds, though, with when they want to be seen, they are. When they don't want to be seen, like May into June into July when they're in denning, then they're just not out there. You just don't see them. And then the family starts to spread out, and everybody sees them. You see them rollicking in the backyard. You see them in the park district. You see them on picnics. That's when it really spikes up in August and September, because that's when the young are now leaving. There are more coyotes. The young have not died off yet. Eventually, death takes its toll on the young ones, and the population starts to drop off again. This pattern's repeated every year, every year, every year, no matter how many coyotes it involves. This is just something, in the Forest Preserve, we do record all the interactions that get reported to us. This is fairly old, But at Herrick Lake, there was a man who used to let his dog off leash to run with the coyotes, so that was documented. East Branch Forest Preserve, a woman said she was surrounded by 10 coyotes, but she didn't see any of them. Springbrook Prairie, we have a dog park. The coyotes have vacated the area around the dog park. So maybe it's just numbers of dogs, maybe it's the size, quantity of dogs, I don't know. But Springbrook Prairie is loaded with coyotes, just not around the 36-acre dog park that's there. Cats should never be let out. They are a target for coyotes, absolutely. People disagree with me. Oh, he's a good cat. He's a smart cat. I don't give them 2 or 3 years outside. Cats living outside are targets for coyotes. Dogs outside are targets for coyotes. There's no way around it. I've got a 10-week-old puppy at home, golden retriever, golden lab puppy, and I have to watch her like a hawk. I live in downtown Naperville. We have coyotes there. Coyote attacks on pets appear to be on the rise. There's no question. It's not appear. They are. People who are scared of animals, I don't have a lot of information I can share about phobias. I've seen my wife get on a table if there's a mouse in the kitchen. She's smart. She knows she's bigger and smarter and stronger than that mouse. Doesn't bother her. She's not going to get on the floor if there's a mouse running around. So if you're scared of animals, I can see why people would be scared of coyotes. But if you're, a lot of times the only thing the coyote is guilty of is being seen, and then it's recorded as a nuisance. Yeah.
I don't know if this is true or not, but my dad always told me when I was growing up, he had a paper out. Come across a dog, don't show any fear. And usually the dog would back away. Are coyotes the same way?
I think so. The question being, if you show fear, do wild animals pick up on it? Absolutely.
So if you don't show it,
if you show boldness, if you show assertiveness, if you show a high level of comfort, that is perceived by the animal. It just is. And you see it with dogs, you see it with wild dogs. My in-laws are scared of our big dog, and they're nervous, and they're waving their hands, and this dog won't let them alone. The servicemen who come in to fix the washer and dryer, they come in, they pet him, and then they go to work. Angus smells them and sits down. But if somebody shows this nervousness, Angus is all over them. I'm sure wild dogs are the same way.
I don't know, when that was eating at my dog, and I was a foot from him, and I'm a big guy.
Oh, yeah.
And I was screaming, and he wouldn't let him go with my dog.
All I can think of is then it's more of adrenaline, and when a dog is attacking, and a predator is attacking, their senses they're not thinking about what else is going on then. You're lucky. Your dog is lucky.
Yeah, I was twice.
Now, it does, this is the worst part, is people telling me that their dogs have been killed, and I have to face these people. It's my job. The woman in Wheaton who let her dog out, it was attacked by a coyote. She backed up to a golf course. The prairie path ran alongside. It's perfect coyote habitat. Her dog was attacked. 8 years later, her dog was attacked again. Same dog attacked and killed. She let her dog out unattended every night for those 8 years. I don't know how the dog survived that long. But once a coyote learns there's no fear in someone's backyard, they'll return to that backyard. If there's something positive that happens from a coyote going into an area, they're going to remember that area. It behooves us as humans to make sure they don't have a pleasant time in our backyards, that they're scared, that they're nervous and wary, and they won't want to come back.
So you think these coyotes are like waiting for those foxes underneath the shed?
Yeah. I think if a coyote can go into somebody's backyard onto their porch and eat some dog food, they're going to think this is the greatest, and they'll be back the next night. Yes?
Do they come over 4-foot fence?
Yes. They can climb chain link fence up to 6 feet tall. They can get their toes in it. The best deterrents there are they have rollers for that top pipe that rolls. They can't grip that then. They'll go up to the top and roll off. A 4-foot fence, they can leap right over that without any difficulty. Fences that have vertical boards are very difficult for them to climb over. With horizontal boards, they can sometimes get toe holds in. If they can't see what's on the other side of the fence, they're more reluctant to go over there. But they're curious, and if they think there's food, they'll try.
It's also amazing how small they can get to go under.
Oh, they can go under
They can
things.
go through a hole that they wouldn't fit through.
When we have, this is more for foxes, but when we're rehabilitating the foxes at Willowbrook, the hole to their door, you couldn't put a 16-inch softball through, and they can run full speed through that. It's just they're not big animals. We live in a society that's detached, absolutely true. You know, when we were growing up, we played outside, we climbed trees, we looked under logs, splashed in the creeks. Kids don't do that anymore. I think it's a shame. I think we were better off for it, playing outside, doing the things we did outside. There's too many kids looking at monitors today, but you know, so they're just detached. They don't have the knowledge of the natural world that we might have, even though, as I've said, and it's been substantiated, there's more wildlife out there now than ever before. It's not something to be scared of. I think wildlife is something we should enjoy, but we do have to watch out for pets. There was a girl killed by a coyote in California in 1981. They had been feeding the coyote all summer long. 500 humans killed by domestic dogs. I don't like these pictures just because it's, you know, I think this is sensationalistic, but I didn't put the PowerPoint together. Coyotes are getting bolder and bolder and going after people. They're going after little kids at times. It hasn't happened in Illinois. It hasn't happened in the Midwest. It's usually always associated with people feeding coyotes on a regular basis. And this map, it's outdated now, but you're not going to add too much more to it. No coyote attacks in Illinois. There was a report of one a few years ago in Aurora, and it turned out to be a domestic dog. A lot of times, if coyotes will get into open garages, and if somebody comes in, the coyote gets scared, and as it runs past, it may quickly reach out and bite at the person as it scampers away. That's not necessarily a predatory attack. It's more of defensive, trying to get away from the person, but it's still listed as attacks. California, that's where people feed them. Illinois is not even on this chart because it would be 0. This is a bit of a confusing statistics, but it shows that most of the majority of coyote attacks this isn't people, this is people property, including pets, can be predatory. They go after dogs. They go after cats. They absolutely do. This photograph always elicits two responses, 180 degrees apart. Some people are horrified that these kids are left without parental supervision in proximity of a coyote den. And other people say, what a great opportunity for children to learn about wildlife by observing a coyote den from the safety of a fence. And the parent is probably the one taking the picture. They den in more places than people realize. I'm going to go through these slides pretty quickly. This is the study. This is the Cook County Forest Preserve. The far right, outlined in yellow, is Bussey Woods Forest Preserve. The one more in the middle is the Shoe Factory Road Complex on 59, and then the far left is along the Fox River in Dundee. They trapped coyotes and they put collars on them to see where they went. They wanted to see where they stayed and where they moved to. And the coyotes trapped in the forest preserves and then tagged with a transmitter on it really stayed in those forest preserves for the most part. That's why they're solid blue like that. But then you see they showed up in other areas. Those are the young males dispersing and creating their own territory. Let me see if I can Yeah, right there. What? Those larger blue blotches. More territories just being established over time. Solitary coyotes do travel more distance than a family does. The families, there's very little overlap. Each one of those colors is a family now, and they don't overlap with other family territories. The young males, they go everywhere. You can see, if you're in the northwest suburbs here, there's coyotes crossing through your neighborhoods all the time. They're everywhere. This is Woodfield. That's the IKEA. That's one coyote using the retention ponds. That's where the coyote lives. It's enough space for him. One of those first slides I said something about 20 to 30 miles diameter. They're in less than 10 acres in this retention pond, and they've been there for years. The seasonal patterns, again, they're out moving about a lot in February. In March, then they den up. They're not seen until September again, then it increases. They disperse north, south, east, and west. Some go far, some stay close. Some go far and try and come back. Some wait a few years and then disperse. All it shows is we don't really know how far coyotes disperse. I get asked a lot, how come coyotes have all these rights? How come coyotes have more rights than people? You can shoot coyotes in Illinois 365 days a year, 24 hours a day, except during deer hunting season, and then you're restricted to daylight hours. You can use any type of gun, any size magazine, any size caliber. You can use bows, you can use slingshots, you can use crossbows. You can lure them in with wooden calls, with electronic calls. You can hunt them at night and blind them with headlights. They have no rights. You can shoot coyotes anytime if you live in a place where you're able to discharge a gun. 7,000 coyotes harvested each year. It's over 10,000 now. But there are more coyotes now. Yes?
Just to be clear on that, because we get calls all the time from people, can I trap them, can I kill them?
Yes.
Shooting in this area is not permitted.
Right.
You say more like southern Illinois
Yes.
or large area hunting.
Absolutely. Where you're allowed to discharge a gun. You can't do that around here.
I just want to be sure, because again,
Oh, I know. Absolutely. Yeah.
Is it legal to trap them with a steel?
If you're a licensed trapper.
Only if
You have to have a state license to trap wildlife in Illinois. When you're renting the trap from Ace or Menards, do they tell you that? No. Yes?
And along those lines, a lot of the questions that we get is, well, why don't we trap them to get them out of here? And the response, and confirm if I'm right or more information, you will remove that one coyote, but will be replaced by others. Is that correct?
Exactly right, and I've got there's a statistic coming for this
Okay.
in just a minute. Nearly all open space are used by coyotes. That's wrong. All open space. Get rid of the word nearly. They're in secondary. They used to only live where good coyote habitat. Now they're living in industrial areas. They're living in urban areas. Large-scale movements has implications for management. We're still trying to get a handle over 20 years of looking at coyotes, what to do about this change in behavior where they're becoming more bold, and this change in behavior where they're now living in real close proximity to people. But the majority of coyotes don't cause a problem. There are a few individual coyotes that are extremely bold, and they're the ones that are causing the real problems. Just like a raccoon that knows it can get into your garage and get into your garbage can, and they do it on a repeated basis, that's unacceptable behavior. Coyotes that get into people's backyards, that's unacceptable behavior. Removal is temporary. If it's still good coyote habitat, taking coyotes out of the habitat isn't going to change it from being good coyote habitat. More coyotes will move in. When you remove coyotes, you immediately take away the impact on the rodent population. The rodent population increases terrifically. So now you have good coyote habitat with more food than ever. They move in and have larger litters. In no time at all, you have more coyotes than when you started to remove them. Harris County, this is a Texas study. When I heard about the Texas studies, a county in Texas spending $10 million, $1 million a year for 10 years to remove the coyotes from Harris County. I thought, those poor taxpayers of Harris County, they're going to waste $10 million. And I thought it was some backwater part of Texas. It's not. This is Houston. Houston is in Harris County. They spent $10 million to get rid of the coyotes, and they ended up with more coyotes at the end of the study. It doesn't work. If you ask a trapper whose profession it is, oh yeah, it'll work, hire me, I'll get rid of them, he's lying. He'll trap 5, he could trap 50. In a few years, you're going to have more. You will have if he traps 50 coyotes, you will have 50 less coyotes. In a few years, you'll have more, 50 more at least. Removal treats a symptom. That's all. Coexistence occurs every day. Again, you see them everywhere. Management should focus on education. The sad thing is, public education now involves you have to watch your pets. You have to. It behooves you. If you love your animals, you gotta watch them. And there's no way around it. Possible positive aspects of urban coyotes and predators of overabundant species. There's a myth out there of overpopulation of predators. Predators never overpopulate. Predators only exist as much as their food allows them to be there. If we have a lot of predators, if we have a lot of red-tailed hawks, great horned owls, fox, coyotes, it's just we have a lot of food for them. If we didn't have that much food for them, we would have less predators. But we have a lot of food. The predators are important. They keep everything else under control. A healthy ecosystem has all the levels of the food chain intact. Yes?
You said that 20 years that there's been a lot of changes. Are the domestic cats, is that one of the changes that...
Well, you know, when I was growing up, I grew up in the northwest suburbs, everybody's cat was outside. All cats ran loose. And then some communities started putting cat leash laws in effect. I know DuPage County did. But there's still some communities where you see a lot more cats around. I know when I've been in Naperville now 21 years. The chipmunk population skyrocketed when the cat leash law went into effect, and that's when the red-tailed hawks, the coyotes, the fox, all moved into downtown Naperville. The Riverwalk was created, so now you have this nice, beautiful linear corridor of green space. Wildlife loves that. Wildlife loves corridors of rivers. And so we have a lot of wildlife in downtown Naperville now.
A cat being a predatory animal, it's kind of a rarity that another predator goes after it.
Yeah. Cats won't go after a coyote, though. Coyotes will go after cats. They're not necessarily looking at them as food, but as a threat to their territory, as another predator in their territory. When they're going after somebody's dog, it's not food. Coyotes eat fine here. It's a threat to their territory, and they want to remove that threat. If we lived in other parts of the world, the threat would be different. If we lived in Florida, you'd be worried about alligators going after your pets and kids. Avoiding problems. January through May is when they're less tolerant of interlopers. They're very defensive at that time. They do defend their young. If you're accidentally near a den, there may be, and your dog is off leash and runs towards the den, they'll be very defensive and protective of their young. A leash keeps your pet by your side and out of trouble. That by your side, that's those leashes that don't extend. Now we have those long retractable leashes. And if you're 15 feet away from your pet in a forest preserve and you're surrounded by tall grass, a coyote can easily come out, see your little dog, and not care how far, see that you're 15 feet away, and then they make a decision. I can get that little dog before the human is able to get me. They're always trying to get away with see what they can get away with. And if they can get away with something, they remember that. Avoiding problems. Our activities influence a coyote's natural fear. Most of us now, when we see a coyote, we watch it. I don't think we should watch them anymore, especially if they're in our backyard. I think we should scare them to death. I think we should haze them. And boat horns work, whistles work, clapping used to work, doors slamming used to work, car horns honking used to work. They don't work anymore. I didn't bring my garbage bag with me. I usually bring this big white garbage bag, not much different than the one sitting on that table with the handles on it. A jewel bag, a Dominic's bag. Inflate that. If you see a coyote in your backyard, a big garbage bag where you're holding the open end and you go whoosh and inflate it as hard and fast, that coyote has never seen anything like it. It will be run 300 yards before it looks back. This combination of a big inflated thing and the sound is going to scare them for a few years. Maybe not 20 years. Maybe if everybody in Illinois is waving garbage bags at coyotes 20 years from now, they won't care about that either. But it does work now. Garbage bags, they're simple, they're cheap, you can keep them in your pocket. Even as small as a jewel bag, those plastic bags being inflated scares wild animals. Discourage close encounters, make them feel unwelcome. Coyotes become comfortable around humans if we let them. We shouldn't let them anymore. Never approach or touch a coyote. I say that to any wild animal. I don't care if it's a bunny rabbit or a mallard. Don't go up to it. If you can go up to it, there's probably something wrong with it because it should try and get away from you. Don't feed them. I used to talk about, I'd come in to a program like this and I'd ask people, how many people put out food for wildlife? And all these hands go up. Now, if I ask that question now, you'd all be intimidated. No one would put your hand up because I've already been telling you not to do it. It's amazing how many people put out chicken bones for wild animals. They attract wild animals because they like the raccoons and the possums coming to their backyard. Well, you're not attracting just raccoons and possums. You're giving coyotes the idea that backyards are full of good food. Yes?
Would you discourage bird feeding?
I don't, because I love feeding birds. But bird feeders attract animals. They attract bunny rabbits at night.
And they would potentially attract a food source.
Absolutely, they attract. And I've seen coyotes eating bird seeds. Piles of bird seeds, just eating it.
They'll knock it down.
Yeah. Or somebody spills it. I've seen them lick barbecue grills. One with the lid up. They have their paws on it, and they're licking the dirty grates. Keep garbage inside, compost bins locked, clean your barbecues, clean up under the bird feeders. Dogs leashed, cats inside, supervise them the way you would a young child. Some people do like wild areas. They do attract more rodents if you let your grass grow tall, if you have a mulch pile in the back, if you have piles of sticks. Wildlife loves that. Again, stand your ground, don't run. It's not that they're going to chase you, it's you're missing your chance to scare them. That's why we say don't run. You know, a lot of people think that I'm alluding to the fact that they're going to run you down. No, we're missing our chance as humans to put them in their place. Show their dominance. Yes, sir?
Lights? I had heard that.
Lights work? Oh, absolutely. And motion, lights, noise, especially in an effective combination, works better than any one thing. An air horn works. An air horn and lights going on and off is better. I don't know if a whistle does anything anymore. Shouting doesn't do much anymore. Little, I don't want to say little old lady clapping at the back door doesn't do anything anymore. I've seen people that clap at it. It's like, no. Yeah, it's not clapping. Yeah.
Throwing things at them?
Yes, absolutely. Throw things at shovels. I would throw snow if I had a snow shovel. Absolutely. It's important that they get scared of our backyards.
They won't attack you if you
No.
throw the
No.
item at them.
No.
I
No.
think doesn't it depend on if you've got a small dog, then you don't want a coyote in the yard.
Right.
Or, if you got a little cat,
Yeah.
just let them out. But I mean, for any other reason, it's just gonna keep a balance within that.
Yeah. Now, some people love the idea of wildlife in their backyards, and I can't. I'm not going to say that they're wrong. I have lots of bird feeders. My big black lab, it seems to attract the chipmunks to our yard.
I
He's
see
a
tracks in the snow all the time during the winter.
yes.
In my rabbit and mouse population in my yard is pretty much gone.
Okay.
So I don't really care if they're around, I never see them.
Yeah, it's up to the person. My concern though is the last few years, they've been approaching people. They've been approaching pets on leash. That's not tolerable. We can't have that. They can't be that bold. And it's not all of them. But there's a few individual coyotes that have become bold enough to approach somebody with a person there. That's unacceptable. I love animals. My job is wildlife. I've got a dream job. And I'm telling people, coyotes are something that we shouldn't have around in the numbers they are. And all we can do is this educational talks like this. And I've done this talk to now Westmont, Darien, Oak Brook, Naperville, the city councils, police departments, animal control agencies, anybody who will listen, because this is important. They're here, and it's an issue. Teach children about wild animals. We don't have wolves around here. Every once in a while, a wolf may wander down from Wisconsin into northern Illinois, but don't confuse the two. Wolves are big, big dogs. Coyotes are deceptively sized. A lot of people have been working on this study. That second name down, Stan Geert, he's at Ohio State University now, and for 17 years, they've been looking at the coyotes in the Chicago region, the most studied coyotes in the world. And that's the last slide. I'm glad you've been asking questions all this time.
Why the tail? Every time I see them, the tail is tucked in.
Sometimes their tail is up, sometimes straight out, sometimes down. I'm guessing it may be some form of communication I don't know about. Usually if they're happy, though, it's just hanging loose. When they're alert, everything seems to rise. Their ears maybe stick up a little bit more.
Yeah, like the picture shows, that's how I see them. The tail's tucked in.
Yeah, but they're wary. They're always observing. That's what they do extremely well. Yes?
Do you see them in the daytime as much as the nighttime? Or?
You see them in the daytime, and there's nothing wrong with that coyote.
Yeah.
If that individual coyote may be, for whatever reason, has a different cycle than most coyotes. Most coyotes are more active at dawn and dusk. But a coyote at 3 in the afternoon, 10 in the morning, there's nothing wrong with it. He's just out there at that time.
And are these dens like with two animals in it? It's just a matted down area. So
Usually an old woodchuck hole. It's not a big long tunnel, but they excavate dirt. But it can be where there's rubble, where there's old debris.
So along the train tracks, there might be dens.
Lots.
Yeah.
They love train tracks. They just can, where there's timbers, where there's bits of cement and concrete or culverts, and they can hollow out a small little area. The entrance is tiny.
But you figure they're not there are no dens in your yard.
I would doubt it unless your yard backs up to a forest, or if you have 3 acres in Burr Ridge,
Yeah,
you might,
yeah,
but most neighborhoods, no.
yeah.
Not in the yards, but where the creek goes through the backyard, where the railroad tracks are, where the golf course is, where the cemetery is,
Right.
then you would. Thanks for inviting me.